Welcome back. It's been 6 days since I last removed the Anubias from their packaging. In the last video, I planted all the rotting rhizomes into the soil. I want to reorganize the rhizomes so that it would be easier to document the progression. So I started by digging out all of the rhizomes and the plants. Was basically able to identify them so that it would just be easier for me to document which Anubias are doing well, which ones survived, or which ones perished. So after digging everything out, I was able to note which ones were which, and going forwards, it'll just make the process much easier for me to follow the progression of each plant. So this was one of the heads that was rotting, and I'm just going to plant that in soil. The next one was also a head portion of Anubias Stardust Mini. None of these plants so far have completely died. However, they're definitely not looking that great at this moment. This plant here was also from the pot that had five plants. This was not a tail end nor a head. It was actually the full plant. The rhizome was too short. I wasn't able to divide the plant at all. This one might survive. I didn't see any rot. However, there were a few leaves that came off quite easily. So I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't progress into further Nubia's rot. These two pieces of rhizomes were from the original plant that had divided. At this moment, this little piece of rhizome looks like it probably won't survive. However, as it's not completely dead, I will plant it just to see whether it will survive. However, the likelihood is almost at 0%. The next piece of rhizome was the tail end of that Anubias that had divided. So this one actually doesn't look too bad. I don't see any rot whatsoever. I might have been able to save it by cutting off both lead heads. This next plant is the only one that came from the three Anubias potted plant. It was the head portion of the Anubias. I don't think it'll survive. We'll see how it does over the next couple of days. And this was one of the side shoots that I had cut off from the previous piece of Anubias that I had just planted. Hopefully this one survives. We'll see in the next few days. Generally speaking, it doesn't really take that long for the Anubias to rot once the process has started. So going from bottom left to bottom right, we have one Anubias head from the five Anubias pot, the one in the middle, also Anubias head, also from the five Anubias pot, and the last one is a complete plant that was also part of the five Anubias pot. On the top row, going from left to right, that was the second head that was removed off the initial rhizome that was rotting. Next to that, we have the tail end of the rhizome. And then finally, we have the two pieces of Anubias from the three potted plant that I had bought. We'll see how this progresses. I'm just going to jot down which Anubias corresponds to which batch of potted plant, and this will help me document it for future referencing. Turning to the plants themselves, I don't see any other rot as I'm inspecting the plants a little bit closer, but I'll keep an eye on it for the next week or so until everything has stabilized. I do see some potential to propagate the plant so far, but like I said, we'll wait till everything stabilizes prior to me doing any propagation. That's a mini update that I have. This video was just to document the labeling of all the plants.